Strategic Hotbox with Dr. Brandi Love Stankovic. Discussing leadership, business, and how to take control of your life and achieve greatness. From the streets of Las Vegas, energized, informed, and never diluted. It's time to kick some ass.
Welcome back to the Strategic Hotbox. It's your girl, Dr. Brandi Stankovic. We have an amazing guest for you today, an author, a subject matter expert, our friend Kellan Kautzman. And we're going to learn a little bit more about him in our topic today about leading a virtual workforce. Let's get started. As you know, the Strategic Hotbox is broken up into three parts. We've got the learn, we've got the love, and we've got the kick ass. And that's what we want you to do. We're going to teach you maybe a little, and maybe not even teach you something. Maybe just dig into a topic that you feel passionate about already. Maybe highlight something that you've already been thinking about. And then we're going to love a little, and we'll get to know our subject matter expert, and we'll share and connect, because that's really what the world is about today. And then we're going to kick some ass, and we're going to urge you to take action and start doing something differently today. So when it comes to leading a virtual workforce, what does that even mean? What does it mean to be virtual? I think that the workforce and the workplace has changed drastically over the last 20 years. I mean, even in the last 5 years, I think that jobs have just shifted. The way that I went to work when I first started working is completely different than the way that I go to work today. And gone are the days of the cubicle and punching the clock, right? The working 9 to 5. I think that was a good reference. The gone are those days though of office space and that kind of thing. And if you're an organization that is really pushing people to do that, it's time to start thinking differently. It's time to start thinking and allowing employees to explore flex, because so often organizations are built on intellectual capacity and intellectual thought and intellectual capital. And so because of that, it doesn't necessarily require us to have a butt in a seat in a cubicle. And so organizations like Zappos or Google are just reimagining and looking at lounges and standing desks and treadmill desks and different types of office spaces. And we dabbled a little bit in this in our podcast about experiential marketing, and we really want to dive into it a bit more today. But it's also requiring leaders to lead a little differently as well. And candidates, if you think about it, people that are coming into jobs are demanding it. So often people want jobs that have this flexibility, because the employee can work anywhere, anytime. It gives a bit more of that work-life balance that I feel so poignantly about. It just really is about understanding where you are, who you are, and how it is that you're going to lead your life. And it pushes from a leadership standpoint, for problem solving rather than just transactional work, just like getting A, B, and C done. You really can look at the big picture. And there's collaboration, there's creativity in it, and you really just can be more of who you are. So what does that mean to work remotely? I have always traveled for what I do, going to different positions and people and going different places on the globe. And now in the position that I'm out, I lead remote teams. And it is challenging for those of you that are listening to the podcast or watching the podcast here today. It is challenging to lead a remote team. So if you have remote branches, you have people that are in different locations or even in different office buildings, different part of the office building, it is hard to lead teams in different areas. And some of the things that I do, and then we're going to learn from our expert today, some of the things that I do to lead those teams are this. The first is that I always try to do significant onboarding. So the second that they come into my team or I come into their life, I spend a good amount of time talking about my vision, my style, and where I see us going, and make sure we're on the same page with that. Taking a quick drink of water for those that are listening, and make it so that way, from an onboarding perspective, that we're setting the stage, building the foundation, making sure that we're having a shared and collaborative vision. And so that onboarding allows for at least opening that channel of communication. And then when it comes to communication, I think it's just a style thing from my perspective, but it's also critical for virtual teams is to be open and direct and be as concise and specific as possible. No bullshit. Virtual teams do not allow for baloney. If you are the kind of person that just like beats around the bush and what I really meant by this, and I'm going to talk in circles for like the next 3 hours, that is not going to work. You're not going to be able to lead somebody that's across the ocean or across the country, because when it comes to that, you have to be specific. You have to be clear. You've got to follow up in writing, because there's so much room for interpretation when you're not looking at somebody face to face. And I say we've got to be able to just eliminate the elephants. So any elephants that might be in the room, any fears that you might have, if you have a fear of confrontation, you have got to get rid of that as much as you can be clear and concise in communication. Another strategy that I utilize is open and shared calendars. I always let my team know where I'm at and what I'm doing and what I'm up to, and I like to know what they're doing as well. I don't ask them, or don't make them ask for permission, and nor do I ask them for permission for things, but I always share and open my calendar, because if they need to get a hold of me, they need to know how to be able to get a hold of me, and vice versa. And so the more open things are, but that takes time. Some teams aren't ready for that type of open communication. They might be fearful of sharing information. So allow a transition time if your teams aren't there to get them to that place, but being open as you can. And so if you have private meetings, like say you want to go to the dentist and everybody needs to know that you're at the dentist and you aren't comfortable saying, yo, I'm at the dentist, then that's fine. Just put meeting out of the office, but be, comfortable saying I'm not in the office right now. And that has to be, everybody has to be on the same page with having that time. The more that you have employees that are like, well, so-and-so spends more, any of that kind of stuff isn't going to work on a virtual sense, because you aren't there to micromanage. If you're a micromanager, virtual teams aren't for you. And the final one that I do is celebrate the face-to-face. When you do get the chance to be with your virtual teams, if you get the chance to be with those teams, is celebrate. So often I'll find that people that work with virtual teams, when they get together, that's when they handle the tough stuff. Like, we're going to sit down and we're going to battle out this tough stuff. And they don't spend that time, having some fun and connecting as humans and smiling. And that's your only chance to love the people that you're with. And so when you get a chance to love, use it to love. And so when you're with your teams, do a little bit of that. Now, if you have to have some tough convos, have the tough combos too, and separate those meetings. Don't go, I'm going to love you a little and then I'm going to hate on you a little. Try to do it, as separately as possible, but use and celebrate the face-to-face. So those are my strategies. Now let's talk to somebody that really knows what they're doing, and I'll hopefully learn a little as well. I'd like to formally introduce you to author and entrepreneur Kellan Kautzman. Now hello. Welcome. You are here, and you're the owner of Send It Rising Internet Marketing, and you've got your bachelor's in Spanish and a master's in education from the University of Minnesota. Mm-hmm. You are an accomplished public speaker, so you're going to blow us away today in your concise communication style.
Too kind.
And in Spanish and in English, right?
Lo que quieres.
And then you're also an author of Everybody's Doing It, Advertising Redefined. And I'd love to use this chance, if I can, Scott, to throw a shout out to the book that, get a flash of here. I can Vanna White, some sparkle fingers. Yeah, beautiful. He's the author of Everybody's Doing It, Advertising Redefined. So go check this one out, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that today. He's an entrepreneur of Kautzman Properties and Crypto Miner Group. Yep. So you're busy.
Got a couple things going on.
Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here. One of my best friends on planet Earth, his name is Hansu Kim, and he lives in Minneapolis. And I got a chance to be a keynote speaker at this conference, the most money I've ever made. I'm so nervous and so fortunate because I get to go to Minneapolis to do it. And I used to live there for 8 years. And I'm sitting there after the speech, decompress, feel so good about life. And he shows me this video of this Tai Chi master called Sifu Adam Meisner, and he's working with his folks, and he explains this concept called Wu Wei, which is a Taoist principle, and it's most often translated as non-action. And it never made sense to me when I read like the Tao Te Ching and all these different things. I'm like, what do you mean non-action? What does that mean? It just elicits the someone under a tree doing nothing with their life. That makes no sense to me. And he put it into a martial arts application, which I thought was fascinating. He says, you have to engage. If somebody's punching you, you have to block. You can't just sit there. Non-action makes no sense. He says it's better translated as no preference. And here's the secret. So in business, if we get stuck into a line of thinking, if we go, yeah, but it's the office. It's always been the office. The office is the way it is. Then company B over here is like, you know what? I don't want the $6,000 overhead, which I experienced with a former company of $6,000 a month for ego, for come down and look at the beautiful hardwood and the nice couches and the whatever. And like, let's pretend it's 1950s and play Mad Men. Doesn't make sense. And so Wu Wei, this ancient Taoist principle, can be understood as non-preference in the following way. If we get stuck into this idea that we have to, and we can abolish traffic, by the way, Dr. Brandi, we can be done with traffic.
Like never go to the office.
That's what I'm saying. Like, look at the ecological impacts of fewer cars on the road.
Never put clothes on.
We could do jammies.
We could
if you want,
jamma parties.
we can wear jammies. That's my personal preference. These are not my jammies, just so you know. So my wife and I actually work from home, and we've been fortunate to have a nanny, and so she's watching the kids, and then we're both working from home, and it just works. And that husband-wife working from home thing, I think a lot of people go like, oh, I could never do that. Well, you're not practicing Wu Wei, are you? Because have you done it? Have you tried? Do you know what it's like? And so that non-preference, now that it's the NBA Finals, I love this analogy. So LeBron James, if you look at a scoring chart of his entire career, where this dude has shot the ball the whole time, decades, right? Guess where he prefers to be? Probably
in the pink, inside. Under the basket. He does. LeBron always charges the ball.
So that's what I thought too.
Is it not?
So well, here's the thing. So he actually has non-preference. It's crazy. You're
really?
Right. You're right. He is. There's a little bit of a grouping there, but it's everywhere. Left, right, back, forth, like it doesn't matter.
Amazing.
He is amazing, right? And so that's exactly it. So that's what I want to kind of evangelize to the business owners is that if you're feeling the tension, you're stuck. And if someone pushes you over and you're tense, you fall over. You're just a board, right?
You have to be everywhere.
You have to be flexible. And so when we're looking at the virtual workforce, if you haven't played in that space, if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend that you do. 1, less cars on the road. 2, ecological impact. 3, the folks that work for you will love you so much more. And then the final thing is an example of a married couple that actually hired. I have a married couple working for me. So it started out with the incredible Michelle Farino, who's the director of internet marketing for Send It Rising. Absolutely incredible, the work she's doing. And not 2 months ago, I hired her husband. And it's amazing that they get to wake up, commute, right? And they've got this incredible synergy and it's working so well. And so I could not more highly recommend taking the leap if you haven't already.
So now it does take discipline though, does it not?
It absolutely does.
And so to your point, people can't discount it before they've tried it. And so often we do that as human beings and don't have that non-preference. That's the first time I've ever heard it referenced that way. And we do that as humans. We go into things saying no before we try. But it isn't for everyone, right?
You know what? In my experience, the folks that can't handle it very quickly become I can tell, right? And so you're absolutely right. It's not a blanket statement, everyone do it, it's going to work perfectly for everyone. But from an ownership perspective, if you want to look at overhead, if you want to look at loyalty, long-term employees happy to be there, there's just absolutely, it is the future. And explain to me the difference between me walking down like 30 feet to the person's office, knocking on their door, versus me saying, hey, do you have a second for a Skype call?
Right. Or emailing them, because let's be honest, like how often do you actually walk down to somebody's office email them anyway?
Exactly right.
Even though they're 30 feet away, you still email them at the cubicle next to you.
Right. It's common courtesy.
It really just is. You just, it's just like you email them anyway. Yeah. Why not to email them at a different office?
So what are we doing? And so now we just need to figure out infrastructure. Okay. So like there's something called Teamwork PM, which is absolutely brilliant. It's task-based project management. There's a ton of things like this out there. So getting everyone set up on Teamwork PM makes a lot of sense. People talk about Slack all the time. I'm no expert in Slack, but they say that's a great tool as well. I use Skype and Teamwork PM, and that solves 99% of my problems.
Nice. And so Teamwork PM is just like a collaborative tool?
Yeah, it's like imagine this. So let's say I need to do something for you. So you put a task into Teamwork. You say it's due Tuesday. It's for Kellen, and then you click a little button that says notify by email. So I get an email saying, hey, Dr. Brandi Stankovic wants XYZ from you to complete by X time. And then every day, everything I need to get done goes into this list. And that's how my word becomes bond. Is if I tell you that I am going to do something, I don't just tell you and then go on with my life because I'm going to forget. It goes in Teamwork every time, all the time. And so just that one habit has made me a very honest person, because I will not tell someone, look them in the eyes and say, okay, I'll do it, until I pull up my phone, put it in there, and I'll say it'll get done. Because every single day, no matter what happens in my life, I go through that list. And if I can complete it, I complete it. If I can't, I reach back out to the person and I say, I'm sorry, I knew I said I would, but that happens almost never, 0.01% of the time. I just knock it out, because tasks in my world aren't 5-hour engagements. You know, they're like 15-minute, 10-minute, 5-minute things. I mean, you understand it. It's a leadership thing. So you have to make a decision. You have to push something forward. You have to send an email. And that's it. It works.
So how has leadership evolved then in this? I mean, so somebody that's thinking about going and maybe transitioning to allow some of their team to do some flex time or starting to do this, how can they evolve in their leadership style?
I think they should, first of all, just dive in and be cognizant of setting expectations up front. So the way that I've managed it, and I've been very lucky, is I never had to do that big jump, right? I never had to go, okay, we're virtual now, because we just always were. So culturally, you know, for like a Yahoo, a large company, or even if you have like 10, 15, 20 employees, I can see how it could cause rifts if like XYZ person group can and this group can't. So you have to understand your own space. So this is a good example. So some people come to me and they'll say, hey, I want a website. How much does it cost? And I say, how long is a piece of string? All right. Any blanket statement I say here is going to be slightly wrong for your organization. So you need to sit down with your team and say, hey, folks, let's democratize this process a little bit. This is what we'd like to move towards. Maybe, you know, this person over here can't. They literally, like, that position cannot do it. But if we grow and we hire someone for that position in the future, you know that, you know, when we do that, we're going to move you into the space where you can work from home, and you're aware of that. We've talked about it. And then, you know, you again, democratize the process so everyone has buy-in.
What about people that have fear? How do you calm the fears? Fear being they fear that their employees won't get anything done.
So Teamwork PM. You know, if you have a project management system where these are the 20 things I need them to do that day, and you're cognizant of, it's actually better than having them in the office and not having project management. It's better, because now here are the 20 things I need to get done. Did they get completed by the time I assign them to you? Yes or no? Could not be more clear. And so you're actually giving them like an hour of their day back, which, I don't know, with kids, are you kidding? An hour with my kids? Like, I could do so much in an hour with my kids. It's so much fun. You know, like,
I could get sick of them in an hour.
You could be done.
Being honest.
You could be done. You could just throw in the towel in an hour. Not that you would.
Right.
I'm not saying you would do that. Got the best kids, greatest kids. But yeah, so the point is that you can make it work.
Awesome. And so what was an unexpected learning that you had in this process?
I would say that when I brought someone on that was part-time, that they absolutely 100%, no questions about it, took advantage of it. Like, unabashedly took advantage of it. And I was paying a dollar figure where I'm like, yeah, and then you know, it wasn't, I didn't fully, you know, address that for like a good 6 months to a year, because of a part-time thing. So just be cognizant of that. If you're hiring someone that...
Tell us a little bit more about that. What does that mean?
Yeah, so like, here's a good example. So like, I've got folks on my staff that just absolutely 100% have to do what they're going to do, or the whole thing explodes, right? That just, and then I have some part-time folks where they still have this kind of small task over here, and it needs to get done, and it's fine. But their hours were not accounted for, not well. And so they got to work from home, and they basically worked maybe 2 hours out of a 5-hour shift for months. And that they never had the incentive to come back and say, hey, you know, I'm not really using my hours. I could be doing more. That never happened. And so I was aware that I was kind of giving that away, right? Because this position wasn't exactly, you know, full time. It wasn't whatever. So I justified it in a whole bunch of ways. But we fixed it over the last month. We were like, okay, this is what it is. This is what we need from you. We addressed it, but it went on longer than it probably should have.
So it's more just if you're going to go down this path that the manager has to be ready, the leader has to be ready to be engaged.
And hours, you know, you're not meeting your, like, we know that there's additional time here, and then hold them accountable, feet to the fire.
So can you share a funny story?
Funny story. So my daughter's running around the other day and she bunks her head on the wall, and I say, Annika, did you bunk your forehead? She says, no, Dada, I bunked my one head. Has
Just
nothing to do with virtual anything at all. But this happened. I'll be here all week. Thank you.
But no stories of your kids running in while you're on meetings like that.
You know what?
One,
I
CNN.
saw that, and I felt so bad for that guy.
I know.
But I love that guy now too. I just love that, you know, that's his world. No, like the dogs will bark, you know, that's a thing. You know, dogs barking. I took a radio show. I was on a radio show in Barbados, like 99.3 Barbados, and I ran into the closet, right, because the kids are fussing, whatever, and like literally my head is in the clothes with the phone to try to get this kind of atmosphere of silence.
Right.
So that can be bad. You got to be cognizant of that, locking doors and that sort of thing. Also, my wife just walks in whenever she wants because it's her house.
Right.
And it doesn't matter like what I'm involved in or whatever. So it can be tricky, but it's also ultimately worth it.
Yes. And it's so true though. My office, I work from home when I'm not on the road. And when I close my office door, it gets really hot in my office. And so after a couple hour conference call, I'll be sweating and, you know, like in this like sauna of an office. And so if somebody were to come in, it's like, what's even occurring in here? What kind of meeting are you? Are you really like under the pressure of? So can you share a bold action item or takeaway for people to walk away with?
Yes, we can solve traffic. We can do it, people. Just take the leap. Teamwork PM, Skype. I would say this. This is an easy one. If you're in the office job and you know the vision is to get folks out, save money on overhead. Oh my goodness. Office water, commercial phone, all those things, they just rip you off because your commercial is so much more expensive. So it's so much money you can save by just getting rid of it. So do that. And then here is homework for you. Start Skyping even though you're in the office. Try that.
Try it.
Did it work? You know, tell your folks like, hey, we're going to start Skyping each other, doing video stuff just to see if we could eventually maybe go into a virtual space without it being the end of the world. How does that sound, everybody? That sounds great. Fantastic. Let's do it.
That's a great idea. So people, if they just like on Friday, our Friday meeting will be a group Skype or Skyping one-on-ones or whatever. So that way, if you wanted to do flex schedule, even a small virtual, so even if they just have flex scheduling for employees on 1 day a week basis to say we could have our one-on-ones be virtual. I love it. Great idea. So how can people get a hold of you?
Well, they can reach me at info@senditrising.com. That's info at senditrising or 702-263-0141. Again, 702-263-0141.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here.
This was great.
It was fun. And we're solving the world's problems, and I get to wear my pajamas, and I feel like this is amazing. Thank you.
Seconded.
And hopefully we'll continue. Thank you for the book.
Oh,
and
pleasure.
Everybody get out, and we'll put one more flash for those that aren't watching on video. Get out and check out Everybody's Doing It, Advertising Redefined. And let's head out to the shout out.
Hola, soy Antonio Suárez de la UNAM, México, la Ciudad de México. My name is Antonio Suárez from Mexico City. I work at the University of UNAM in the city at the landscape department. I teach mobility and social landscaping. You're listening to Brandi, Strategic Hotbox.
Thank you to our friends from Mexico City and giving us a shout out. Hello to all of you down in Mexico. Thank you again to Kellen for being here today and talking virtual with us. Now it's time, your favorite time, my favorite time. It's time to kick some ass. Here's your top 5 kick ass. Number 1 is to embrace the anytime, anywhere mentality. So it's time to switch the frame. Kellen gave us a very good way to start thinking about why not. If you haven't done it before, why not? Take the leap. It's time to start thinking about it. Do it in a safe way. Start practicing virtual while you're in the office in the safe environment. Practice Skype on a Friday with your staff to see if it would work. And when you do a flex schedule or a virtual environment, and just embrace that that mentality of having your staff out and about. Number 2 is to focus on the output, focus on the results. So whether you're using a project management software, whether you're focusing on the clear and concise communication where I started today, always focus on the end result. What's the output that you want to get with at the end? And so the team is really, really, strong in understanding that. And that may be some of the fear that some of you might have. And we are in a very time crunch environment. So I know that all of you that are here and listening or watching us today can relate to the fact that just closing your door at the office or just working from home one day, you can get so much more done without all the interruptions and interactions that happen in a day-to-day office and just the things. It's nice to do that sometimes, to be in a place where you can work together and be together, but sometimes having that focus is great as well. The downside to that is being able to manage what's happening outside of the office. So if you do focus on the output and the results, it's so much better. So that time that you have would be increased if you could dedicate the time it would take to having your team have that flex scheduling. Number 3 is eliminate those elephants. I talked about it before. Be as not forcefully confrontational, but don't be afraid to have those confrontational conversations, and being as professionally articulate in those confrontations as possible, and being concise and direct in communication by saying, hey, this is the challenge that we're having. Because the more and the quicker that you can get through the challenge and get through the failures, the quicker that you can get to the result and the successes in the future. Number 4 is to foster problem solving. That's what the virtual environment allows for. That's what creativity and being flexible allows for. That's what people working together in a collaborative environment really allows for. And this kind of anything new, anything that's beyond, anything that's stretching the comfort zone will take you to places and things that you haven't thought of before. And so foster a place that you can really problem solve and be open to that. And number 5 is to celebrate the moments of eye contact. Celebrate the love. And it really does come down to that. That's our learn, love, and kick ass philosophy. There's your top 5 kick ass. Thank you again to Kellen for being here. We love to hear from you about topics that we can cover on the Strategic Hotbox podcast. Share your thoughts with us. You can reach out to us on Twitter. That's at BrandiLuv, BRANDILUV, or head out to thestrategichotbox.com. Speaking of, at thehotbox.com, there are some free tools and resources for you to check out. There are things like how to become a CEO worksheets. There are things like a leadership detox. I call it the leadership detox. It's like a 10-day leadership program to just shake it up, to just change things, the way things are going, to get out of your system. It's kind of like those detox things that you might do with a diet where you just need to drink some gross drink for 10 days in order to change your life. Well, that's kind of what the leadership detox does for you. It'll shake things up to make you change your thinking and start getting on a different path. And sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need to focus on our own personal development. So strategichotbox.com has some of those tools for you. And then, of course, we've got that merchandise that you guys have asked us for. Some fun Hotbox stuff out there for you. And a lot of our friends are rocking the Hotbox stuff. And thank you for all of our friends sending photos. We love you. You look delicious in all the gear, and we really appreciate it. And so reach out to us if you want to chat or have any topics that you want us to cover. Podcast at strategichotbox.com. Until next time, get out there and kick some ass.